Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining today's session on the tips and tricks for new beginner Amazon sellers. So maybe let's just wait a couple of seconds for the rest of the attendees to join and stream in. So while waiting, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and maybe everyone can just like drop a yes if you can hear me, if the sound is working well. Just let me know, and feel free to interact with us. We'll be beginning in a few seconds. So before I actually go kickstart into the discussion for today's topic, what we're gonna do is to um, cover an overview about some things you need to take note of before you start selling on Amazon. So for those of you who are new to our roundtable session, seller roundtable are discussion-based sessions where our Amazon seller ambassadors, who are Amazon sellers just like you, share about their tips and experiences selling on Amazon. And please note that these seller ambassadors are not Amazon employees. They are just sharing their advice, their best practices gained throughout their selling journey. So before I start, I just wanted, before we jump into the discussions with the seller ambassadors, I just want to take the first 5 minutes to address some of the most commonly asked questions that you guys have submitted to us before today's session. And this will include a brief overview on the type of the Amazon selling plans, the documents that you need to complete registration for your selling account, and what are some of the costs related to selling on Amazon. So this will just take minutes before we jump into the discussion with our ambassadors. So firstly, it's the different types of Amazon selling plans. So there are two types of selling plans on Amazon. So first is the professional selling account, and second is the individual selling plan. And if you're planning to grow big and sell more than 40 items per month, we would recommend for you to get started with the professional selling plan. However, if you sell less than 40 items per month, you can consider using the individual selling account because there is an additional 0.99 cents per item fee, and the referral fees for each item you sell using the individual selling account. So that's why if you're selling more than 40 items, it might make more sense to take the professional selling account. But apart from the referral fees, there are other benefits that you can get from the professional selling account. And this includes getting access to APIs or selling reports. And if you want access into programs like the Amazon Launchpad program and the Handmade program, Amazon Handmade, if you sell handmade products. But regardless of the plan you decide to select, you don't have to worry if you make the wrong choice because you can actually change plans anytime. So maybe if you're just experimenting and you don't want to incur professional selling fee yet, you can start with the individual account. But if you expect that you're going to grow fast, then professional account might better suit your needs. So another thing that you need to take note of is what are the items to get started. So to complete registration, there are a few items that you need. Firstly is your bank account number and your bank routing number. Secondly is a chargeable credit card. Another is the government issued national ID. So this can be your passport or your driver's license or even your IC. And you also need some tax information for US citizens, and also the phone number. So if you don't have to worry about all the detailed steps, you can scan the QR code on the screen so we have provided a step-by-step registration guide just by scanning the QR code here. Yeah. Just want to ensure people can hear me. It's very hard to hear me. So it seems that my voice is breaking out quite a bit. I will try to slow down and talk a bit slower. So hopefully you guys can hear me better. If not, we will also be sharing the recording to everyone after this session. So don't worry about that. Yeah, and the next thing is the selling fees, because a common question that many sellers ask is how much does it cost to sell on Amazon? And we can break it into 4 main items. So first is the selling plan, which we just covered. Then second is referral fees. So what this is that Amazon charges a percentage fee on all items that you sell. and the amount varies across different categories, but generally falls within 6 to 15% of the total cost, which includes your shipping costs and other charges. So if you want to find a more detailed breakdown by category, you can find it on our sell.amazon.com.sg website. And the third item is the fulfillment fees. And this is only applicable if you ship your products using fulfillment by Amazon, or otherwise known as FBA. And finally, it's other costs. So these are some costs that you may incur additional fees on depending on the situation, or other optional programs that are designed to help you increase sales. This includes if you want to run Amazon sponsored advertising, coupons, or any other Amazon products or tools to drive your business on Amazon. So um, please note that when you register and set up your seller account, you need to provide a credit card, which will be used to charge for any fees, and a bank account where will deposit your sales proceeds. So some of these fees, like the referral and fulfillment fees, are automatically deducted from the sales proceeds. And once you register as an Amazon seller, you actually have access to Seller Central. So you can think of Seller Central as your go-to resource for selling on Amazon, and it's your portal to your Amazon business and a one-stop shop for managing your selling account. So you can add your product information, make inventory updates, manage your payments, and find helpful content that can help you navigate your Amazon business. And it's also where you will list your products. So with that, let's jump straight into today's discussion. And in today's panels, we have our seller ambassadors. They are Amir, Debbie, Felix, and Lala. So maybe can we have the ambassadors to give a quick, brief introduction about yourself? Maybe let's start with Amir first. Amir, you're on mute. Can't hear you.
I know. Sorry. Hi. Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Amir. So I started selling, I think 7 years ago as a private seller at a small business in Amazon, mainly in the US, and then sold it. And now I'm working for a company called Wow Animation, and I'm heading their e-commerce department. Some of you maybe know, this is Oddbods. It's a kid show. So we have a toys business in Amazon. We also started in the US. Today, 3 years after, we are in all the marketplace that Amazon has to offer, I think, almost all of them. That's, I think, more or less. So we have any question that is about global expansion and stuff like that, I think I'm your person for that.
Thanks, Amir, and love your background because that's Amazon Office in your virtual background. So maybe we can move on to Debbie for your quick introduction.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Debbie Chai, and I've been selling on Amazon since 2014. So pretty much around the same time Amir started, and started in the US. And US is my biggest marketplace so far. I think it's the biggest for most sellers who started before Amazon Singapore opened. So the US is the biggest marketplace. So it's really fun to learn how to do business there. And then following that, I started selling in the UK and Europe as well. And that's been also very challenging and rewarding. I'm happy to talk to you guys more about global expansion as well, and VAT and that kind of stuff. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Debbie. So now let's move on to Felix.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Felix. So I've been selling since 2018. And so far, I'm focused more on the US market. Yeah, so far it's been very challenging, but I'm still having fun. And I'm looking forward for today's discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Felix. Thanks for the introduction. And last but not least, can we have Lala to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Lala, and I started selling on Amazon since 2019. So if last year when I was introducing myself, I always say I also have my full-time job. But after 12 years being in the corporate world, so I just recently retired. So I can focus more on opening more stores outside the US market. So that's it. So I'm selling my own brand of toys.
Thank you, Lala. That's really good to see that you have moved from doing it as a side business to now your full-time job. So I think that's really what a lot of sellers actually inspire to eventually reach to as well. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have the introductions from the seller ambassadors, maybe we can move on to the discussion questions. I know my mic has a couple of issues, so if you guys need me to repeat the question, please let me know. I'll repeat myself slowly. So I think the first question, and also because this is our first roundtable of the year, is what inspired you to even start selling on Amazon? Because might be this selling journey, it can be new to other people, new sellers.
Yep, I can go first. Yeah, so for me, I always wanted to run my own business, just to experience how it is like. Yeah, so that was in 2018, and I was looking around and I found Amazon. And what attracted me to Amazon was because of the FBA program, which is a fulfillment by Amazon program. And what it does is it helps me with my fulfillment operations, and then as well as give me access to the US market, which is a way bigger market than Singapore, which is where I'm from. Yeah, so I think based on these two factors, I decided that no, it's a good place to start selling on Amazon. Yeah, which is why I chose Amazon. So I haven't looked back since, and yeah, I've been doing full time so far.
Thanks, Felix, for sharing. So for you, it's really the global opportunities, especially from a small country like Singapore and expanding over to the US, which has millions of more people that you can reach your products to. What about the rest of the ambassadors?
Yeah, I can go. I think that I started because I wanted, to be financially independent. That was where I started. I think that it was a bit of luck because I found a product that I really liked, and I saw that did my research, saw that nobody's selling it to the niche that I want, and kind of like I found like a good way to start. And then I just went for it. And it was, so I think that's kind of like started as a bit of a kind of like an experiment hobby. At the end, it's, I mean, after a while, it was not very easy, but after a while, it was also become profitable, which was fun. And I think it's very exciting. I mean, you build something new, right? You decide you have a product, you think of something, or you find a product that you want, you modify it a bit, or that's something that I really like to do. So I enjoy that process.
Yeah, thanks, Amir, for sharing. Yeah, I think for a lot of the sellers, maybe it started as like a hobby, a side business, while still having a full-time job. And then as the business grows and scales, like Lala, how she started, and had a full-time job. And then now when the business has really proven success, going full-time and committing 100% to the business is also something a lot of that we see in our existing sellers. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. Any other seller investors want to answer this question before we move on to the next question? If not, if no, then let's move on to the next question. So I think a lot of you guys mentioned that you started selling in the US first, or you're actually based in Singapore, but you want to sell in the US. So how did you decide which Amazon global stores, which countries that you wanted to launch first in? Was there like a step by step something that inspired you to start in the US first, or was it another marketplace? And how did you decide in that global expansion journey?
Yep. So for me, I chose US because it's the size of the market and it's more mature and it's bigger than Singapore. And also, I think one key consideration is that the US Amazon Global Store is a good place to start, practicing, because there are a lot of third-party tools there that help you collect data when it comes to sales volume or keywords. Those usually will work well with the US Amazon store first before they roll out to other countries. So I would say that, starting out with the US, you get access to more tools, and that would help you with your product research. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Felix because Amazon started in the US. So all the new initiatives that they are rolling out starts from there. And there's opportunities to join some of their beta programs. You get invited if you're a seller to try some new tools to help you improve your business. So if you want to access the largest ready audience for your products, starting with the US is quite an easy process. You don't actually need to have your don't actually need to start a US company. So as a Singapore registered company, you can sell in the US. I don't want to toot the US's horn too much because we are on Amazon Singapore session now. But at the same time, for me, when I decided to sell in the US, I realized that the audience, the customer base there tend to be a little bit more quality conscious than the Asian market, at least for my type of products. I sell beauty tools. So I find that my products actually command a slightly higher price in the US than in Asia, which was a very big pull factor for me.
Thanks, Debbie, for sharing. What about the rest? How did you decide, the US or even, the subsequent marketplaces that you decided to launch in after? Just wanted to check. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And since you asked that follow-up question, I'm just going to add that after the US, my strategy was to go and enter the next biggest market by audience size, by customer base. So then I chose the UK to launch in. The nice thing about Amazon is because they have a presence in so many big countries, it's actually really easy for you to just port over your listings to another marketplace, another country, and start selling there right away. So for the same kind of effort that you're putting in, number of hours that you're putting into your business every day, it makes sense to go for the biggest marketplace so that you immediately get to put your products in front of the most people possible and increase your opportunities of making a sale.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, Debbie. Thanks for sharing. So maybe we can move to the next question, which is I think a lot of sellers, a lot of them who are new, they're not even sure how to start. I think it's a general question. How do I even start? So maybe from a seller perspective, can you guys share what are some practical steps that or tips that beginner sellers can do to get started? Like what are the first steps, something practical for new sellers to even get started?
Yep, I can go. So I think first and foremost is you have to get your hands dirty, like you really have to take action. And I would say for the start, especially for your maybe first or second launch, you should be focusing more on, educating yourself, learning, and then, trying to build your own business processes during this learning process. And what I would do is, especially for the start, I would probably not go too heavy into, ordering inventories. Can go, I would say about 100 units or even as low as 5 units if I'm not so confident. And then send it over into the Amazon warehouse, FBA. So the purpose is not so much for profits, but, is to go through the entire process, understand the operations behind and learning how to work with the Amazon system. And in the process, the things that you should take note is, understand the cost involved. So the FBA fees, the cost of your goods, the shipping, and the advertising. So once you have all this information, you should then think about, building up a checklist or a cost breakdown or profitability Excel sheet, for example, like to really focus on building up your business process. And of course, along the way, you should learn to pick up skills like product research, how to know if there's demand for a certain product. That's when you should actually invest in a keyword tool. So I use Helium 10, for example. And then, of course, learn how to identify opportunities in the market as well. So, for example, if there's a lot of bad reviews within a certain niche, that's an indication. And also, if there's a lot of irrelevant products for certain keywords, that is also an indication of low competition. So that's an opportunity to come in. And when it comes to finding out market gaps or opportunities, in my past meetups, I actually spoke about this a bit. So you can go look back. And I also like to introduce on YouTube, there's a video by Helium 10, Project X. They do cover a bit about, trying to find opportunities in the market. I think that's quite a good video. So you guys should check it out on YouTube. Just search Helium 10 Project X. And at the same time, so while going through that, also try to build a checklist for, indications of there's opportunity going into the niche. And finally, while we are now doing our first launch, practice the pay-per-click advertising, the PPC system on Amazon. And I would recommend going on to Sellers and Amazon Sellers University. I think they do cover a bit about PPC. So go through the modules over there and then practice, like to really apply what you learn from there. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Felix, for sharing. Yeah, sorry, I see Amir wants to share.
Yeah, I just want to add. I think Felix, gave kind of like the big, everything that you guys should do. I just want to say, I think that probably in the audience there are two kind of groups, right? There are those that maybe don't have a product or just starting and maybe even didn't think of their product yet. And there are probably some that has something, right? Either you work as a shop or something like that. So I'm thinking just that the first research, the first thing is the research, right? The research is really important. And I think that for me, I have this kind of like rule, which is like, if there is something that I like, I mean, it's kind of like I say, it needs to be 50% gut feeling and 50% research, right? So you need to like something, you need to like the product, you need to see that you are related to the product that you're going to sell, because then you will be the best seller. It's like when you get excited about a good restaurant, you can tell it to your friends. But you also need then to see that it makes sense, in terms of there is enough, a velocity of people that are looking for that, or there is a need in the market, or the costs are make sense for you, for the manufacturing part or to the sell part. Or so I think kind of like this 50-50 approach is something that, it's my thing. I recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Amir. I think that makes a lot of sense because if you are going to commit into selling on Amazon, you definitely have to like the product that you're selling to, since you're going to be spending quite a bit of time on improving the product. It has to make sense that serves the customers that you are reaching to the product. And I think like what Felix said, mentioned, you just need to get your hands dirty, get started, maybe try with a few products. Don't over order your first shipment. Maybe test with a few products, a few inventory. And if you start to see success, how do you scale it up? And there are also some tools that Felix shared, like Helium 10, that you can use for product research, keyword research, to see what is the average sales velocity of people searching for that product, and really dive deep into the different data that you can find to see if there's a demand for the product you're looking at. And I think some of the seller ambassadors also shared in previous sessions that one way you can look for opportunities is looking into customer reviews, seeing any customer complaints of a product, so that might indicate a gap where you can actually introduce a better product for. So looking into the current customer reviews, customer service, responses and questions from sellers, from customers, you can also find opportunity there. So a lot of good tips from the seller ambassadors. Maybe is there anything else that anyone wanted to add on before we move to the next question?
Hi.
Yes, Lala.
Yes. Well, for me, before I go to the strategy, maybe you should ask yourself first, what's your objective in selling on Amazon, and how much do you want to earn in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months, or in the next 18 months. And then after that, first, before going into anything else or before selling, you really have to educate yourself on the basic knowledge of how Amazon goes, or the product research part, or the PPC part. You really have to educate yourself before investing money on it. And then after that, you should know how far your capital can go. So before you decide on a specific product, because you can find products that really sell well, but ask yourself, can you shell out that huge amount of money if that in the turnover is like 1,000 or 2,000 units every week? So those are the things that I can suggest.
Yes, yes, Lala. Thanks for filling in the gaps. I think like every other business or project that you embark on, goal setting is very important. Yeah, that's the first step that we need to consider. Like, what do you want to achieve from your business? What are some goals you can set in the first 6 months, maybe even the first month, 6 months, or 1 year? And also in terms of educating yourself, Seller University is a good place to start. So there are a lot of step-by-step tutorials that you can find. So Seller University is accessible through YouTube, or also through Seller Central if you have a Seller Central account. Yeah, so maybe we can move on to the next question now. The next question is, now that we know some of the guiding strategies you guys have, what are some do's and don'ts in your experience for new sellers? Something you can think of, like maybe a mistake you made and you are like, oh, that's a big don't. Yeah.
So for me, I have more do's than don'ts.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the first don't is don't fall in love with your product, especially if it's untested. Don't blow your entire budget on one product. Like, really have a testing mindset. So if you have a fixed budget, try to get as many launches as possible. Yep. So, and the next one would be, for start, just go through the Amazon Sellers University. There's a lot of information. So, yeah, do go through that. And I would say for Amazon, it is a search engine based marketplace. So always start with keyword first, because buyers predominantly type in keywords. And yeah, so keyword first before product. So it's a bit risky when you have a product idea in mind, but you're unsure, whether there's a keyword for it or whether there's demand for that particular keyword. So for me, I always go for keyword first before product, and then do invest in a keyword research tool. And also, I think do join a community. I think like in a Facebook group, I think that would give the support that all sellers would need. And then if you have any questions, someone can help you. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Felix. I think it's quite interesting that you brought up that for you, your approach is keyword first before products. But I think for some of our sellers here, maybe you started off with a product and then you optimize your product with keywords to get it out there to sellers. So I think there's no like right or wrong approach. Maybe for people who are on the other side, maybe you can share like, if you have a product first, how did you bring your listings up to ensure that people see your products also? Because I guess there are many ways that can approach this. And I think Amir also shared just now that some sellers, you don't have a product yet and you're just starting from scratch. And so you need to start from product research. But for other sellers, maybe they're already selling a popular brand, or the brand is already available. Like for example, Oddbots, it's an animation company. So the product is really, the brand is there already, and then you're developing products to sell on Amazon. So what are some steps you guys can share in do's and don'ts from the opposite direction when you started with a product? Yeah, I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, for me, I started with a product first. I didn't know anything about keywords at all. So I really had to learn about how to get my product searchable. So I started with the product because I had access to the factory. So for people who don't have access to the factory, like you said, you have to start by doing product research first, or keyword research first. Whichever way you start, any starting point is a good starting point. It should be the way to look at it. For me, I started with a product already. So when I went into Amazon and started to look at who else sells my kind of product, I got very confused because every single thing that you think you want to sell, Amazon already has somebody selling it. That's kind of the feeling it is because it's such a giant marketplace. So I decided to ignore the competition in the beginning and read up about how to do a nice listing, how to add keywords into my listing so that people can find it when they search for those keywords, how to take nice photos and present my product nicely. So later on, when I've already made a half decent listing that can go live, then I started to look at other competition and see some of the best practices and pick up some of the best practices and implement them on my listing. So I like that my listing doesn't look anything like other people's one. So then it stands out as different. And because I also wanted to build my own brand, it was a good idea to have my kind of brand identity and set that my own brand identity and brand kind of look and feel and be set apart from other people's. So yeah, that was my strategy.
Okay. Go. Do you want to say something, Amir? I saw you unmuted yourself.
Oh, no, just a small. I mean, for I think that I kind of like started with. I was looking for what is missing in a way, and I kind of like. So I can tell you about the first product that I mean, the one that it was my business. It was a Google Cardboard. If you remember, it was something that people used to have this cardboard thing, and you put your phone in, and it's
Yes.
virtual reality. And it was 7 years ago, right? So it was like a bit of a trend. There was a trend, and I wanted to see what's going on in Amazon, right? And I just Googled, and I saw all the Google Cardboards. They were all kind of look like the same, and there was not like specific features. And I saw that there is nothing that's been done for kids, right? Google Cardboards for kids. Like they're all like too big. They are like really. So I took that. I found that there is not kind of like a niche that I mean I'm sure that kids would love that. You know, they're like roller coasters in VR today. So I went to that and then I manufactured something that is for kids. Smaller Google Cardboard, a little bit more. I put some better lens, a little bit some stuff to protect their nose, their eyes, really small stuff. And that was my niche, you know. So I kind of like then I went to that direction. So that's also if you guys see something that is missing, you know, and I don't know, like if you guys, you can always see it also in your life, like if you have kids, for example, and there is a product that you would love to have but you don't have, or things like that. I mean, that's also a way to start, I think.
Yes, thanks, Amir. So I think maybe a lot of sellers have the perception that, oh, I need to introduce something that is really new, entirely new, that has never been seen before in the market, but that might not necessarily be true. Sometimes it can be small product improvements or small gaps in the market, like what Amir saying, you know, there's adult version, but maybe now you can make a children version smaller to cater to the smaller, you know, face and frames of kids. So that's, yeah, thanks for sharing, Amir. Maybe we can move on to the next question, which is on compliance policies. Because you know, a lot of sellers when they're first starting out, and especially when they're selling in the US or you know overseas, you're not familiar with like some of the complex compliance requirements. What are the you know policy requirements to sell in the US, and it might be something that a lot of sellers are afraid of, especially when they're new. They don't know what are these different policies that they need to know about. So do you guys have any tips on how you best navigate these requirements, or what are your best sources of information to get policy requirements and updates to sell in North America, or be it Europe or UK?
For me, would be on a product by product basis. So for example, if I found a baby product, for example, and then of course, the first thing that comes to mind is what is the compliance requirements for selling baby products. And then I would then go dig deep into this certain category. I think, yeah, then what I usually like to do is I would do a Google, probably type in baby products requirements, Amazon. And then I would always click on a link that is from Amazon. So, and then you'll probably show up something about, different requirements for different categories. And I think, yeah, that would be how I would navigate, rather than trying to remember all the different compliance for different kind of products. I think it's quite impossible. So to me, it's always about product by product basis.
Thanks, Felix, for sharing. Yeah, I think it really, because there are so many different kinds of products you can sell on Amazon, and each different product category have different compliance or certifications you need to sell. So you need to start from the product and then look specifically on Amazon help pages to find the specific information you need for the product. And these can be different certifications, like for example, for food, drug administration, medical products, sometimes you need an FDA certification. And for baby products, there are different certifications that you need. So it really depends on the product that you are selling. Maybe another thing that the seller investors can give advice on is what are some tips that new sellers can take note of to avoid custom issues when you ship from, from Singapore or Southeast Asia to the US fulfillment center? What are some tips to take note of when you, like customs wise?
I can take this. I think that the best tip I can give you is just find a freight forwarder that knows what he's doing in terms of Amazon, that already shipped to Amazon. If you will ship it by air, door to door, it's going to be more expensive, but also easier. So maybe sometimes at the beginning, you want to do a small quantity, and you know that you might not go and do a lot of revenue out of it, a lot of profit, right? But you just want to test the market and so you do those door to doors, and they are like and they're like usually faster and less complicated. But if you want to go by sea, definitely you can do it. It's just a little bit more things, but it's okay. It's manageable. But the key is to have a freight forwarder that gives you the whole service. I think, in my case anyway, that allows you to kind of like be, you cannot learn everything about being like a custom broker at your first shipment, right? There is a lot of things. So this is something that I highly recommend, just to find the recommended one and go with it. And I think that I'm not sure if that's maybe Natalie, you can tell me, but I think that also in Amazon, in the Seller Central, there are some all kind of service providers. I don't know if you have some shippers, but if you do, I would definitely go and start to talk to them and kind of like get the quotes and make sure that it sounds good. But yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, Amir, you brought up a good point, because on Amazon Seller Central, there's this page called the Service Provider Network. So in the Service Provider Network, there is a very big list of service providers that have been vetted with Amazon. So you can reach out to multiple service providers, start a chat with them, and get a quote, see whether you like the level of customer service they provide before actually committing to the service. So it's good to talk to different service providers, see what type of services or works best for yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I work with sourcing agents. So what they do is they help me to source for factories. They help me with simple quality checks, but most importantly, they do help me with the logistics as well. So they will help to arrange my shipment from China to US, and because they've been doing it so frequently, they would be able to advise, to help you manage your shipment properly. So for me, like for the past few years, I haven't been, be in direct working with any freight forwarders. It was always my sourcing agent that, deals with the goods forwarding for me. So to me, I think it's quite convenient to work with a sourcing agent.
And maybe Felix, can you share more about the working arrangement with a sourcing agent? Because maybe this might be something new to new sellers.
Yeah, sure. So for sourcing agents, their main role is actually to help you source for products. So for example, you've done your product research, and then you know exactly what kind of product you're looking for, the type of material, size, the color. And then these are the things that I would hand it over to my sourcing agent and say, can you help me source for these products? And what they do is they will actually call up a few factories. and then they will come back to me with quotes for all the different factories. And then based on the pricing, I would then do my cost calculations, whether the products are profitable. And then after which I would request for samples. So my agent would, bundle up the samples and then send it over to me in Singapore so I can take a look. So if everything goes well, the sourcing agent would be the one that, helps me to order my inventory to the factory. And when the goods arrive from the factory, they would do a first pass quality check. If there's any problem with the products, they can bounce it back to the supplier rather than, having to find out only when your goods reach the US, or worst case, even reaching the hands of your customer before you find out there's a problem. So this is, I think, one of the perks of working with a sourcing agent. And of course, back to the topic, I really enjoy working with them also because of the convenience of arranging the logistics, the shipment. And some of them, they do provide free storage for a certain period of time as well. So that helps a lot.
In terms of the fee structure, do they take a cut of the, the sale, or how does that
yes,
work?
they do. So they would take a percentage of the overall inventory value that you order. Yeah, and then they usually have different tiers. So the more you order, the percentage actually drops.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have anything to add on, tips to avoid or things to take note of when shipping from Singapore, Southeast Asia to the US? Before I move on to the next question.
I just want to add one small thing, that you can also, sometimes the factory can help you. If it's your first time, today those factories also can do the shipment, and it's actually, it can be easy as well. So that's also a route that I would check it as well.
Yeah, that's a good tip, because now a lot of factories, they know how to prep your products for FBA and help you send it from the factory in, let's say, in China, all the way to the US fulfillment center. So that's something you can always ask your supplier or the factory manufacturer if they provide that service. Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can move on to the next question. Talking about service providers, actually the next question is on service provider adoption, because as you understand, when you run a business, you need to engage different services. So what are the types of services that a new seller need to adopt, especially when they're selling globally? Yeah, what are some of the first few services, besides logistics, or even if it's logistics, what kind? Yeah.
Yep. So for me, I started off with a USD bank account. So I use Resellers, and I believe there are many more, like Payoneer, OFX, for example. And the other service that I would outsource is the sourcing, which I just mentioned previously, because they do cover quite a huge chunk of my operations. And yeah, I believe these two would be the main ones for me, especially to get started. And then when it comes to accounting, will be probably later on in the business, like when you're more established and then you want to have a private limited. Yeah, but that can wait, in my opinion.
So I hear from you, it's sourcing as well as payments. So you don't really necessarily need a US bank account, because if you leverage on payment providers like Resellers or Payoneer or even OFX, you can actually receive and make payments globally through these payment service providers. Is there anything else the other service ambassadors want to add on other service that you adopt or outsource to service providers? If that covers it, then I think we can move on. I think you did clarify, like, for example, tax accounting. Maybe another question is, what about trademark brand registry, especially for those of you who have a brand? So when do you actually decide to trademark your brand? Should you do it earlier, later, in your opinion?
Yep. So for me, I always make sure that the product pays for its own enhancement, including trademarks. So the product needs to be proven, it needs to be selling already, and it needs to be profitable. And then I would think about trademarking it. And of course, with Trademark, we do get advantages. We get access to sponsored brands in the advertising platform, which means basically more ad placements and then more traffic per product. Yep. So I guess there's also another consideration is whether the product has potential to scale into a brand. Is there opportunities to expand your catalog? I mean, if there is, then definitely something you should consider. Yep.
Okay. Anyone else on trademarking your brand, the process, or how early you should do that? Okay, if no other comments, then we can move on to the next category of questions. So I think the next question is on specific Amazon tools and programs. So what are some Amazon tools that for you is critical for new seller success? Like the first thing that you should adopt. I think I saw some comments in the chat box. Maybe you guys can share like Amazon tools or something that will really help your new sellers, or even programs that you can enroll in.
Yeah, so for me, I think the most important ones would be the pay-per-click advertising. Yeah, so it helps to drive traffic to my new listings, and not only that, because from paid advertising, if you are able to drive sales velocity, your product actually gets to rank higher on the search results page. So then eventually that would snowball into a more stable sales for your product. So if I have to choose one, then that would definitely be the advertising.
I think another question that I see in the chat box is people asking like, oh, should I use FBA or MFN? So FBA is fulfillment by Amazon, and MFN or FBM is fulfillment by merchant. So maybe the seller investors can share a bit more from your opinion. What do you guys adopt first? Is there a combination? Maybe some is FBA, some is FBM. You guys have anything to add to this topic?
Maybe I'll take that since I tried to answer it in the chat earlier. When people ask about selling overseas, I always say the best thing to start with is FBA, because it basically Amazon takes all the work away from you. All you need to do is send your inventory over to say you want to sell in the US and you're based here in Asia. You send, your first shipment can be 20 units, 50 units of your product. You send it to FBA and Amazon will handle all fulfillment from there. Whenever you sell a single unit, the Amazon will take the buy price from the customer, will take the money from the customer, minus off the fulfillment fees, referral fees, whatever fees they want to take. And every 2 weeks, they'll give you your profits in your bank account. So really, FBA is the easiest. And also, if you sell your products on FBA, you get a Prime badge on your listing, which tells the customer that your products will be delivered within 1 or 2 days. That it's a really good promise, and it makes your customer want to buy from you compared to buying from somebody else with no Prime badge. So to start off, yes, I think all the ambassadors here should agree with me that FBA is a good place to start. When you have started, you start to sell some volume and you're making some sales and you want to send in more inventory, Amazon has some limits for inventory storage in their warehouses. If you start to hit the top of those limits, you will find that it doesn't make sense for you to be shipping these limited quantities to the US every month or 2. So you might want to find a third-party warehouse and start to store your inventory there, and that warehouse should be able to help you to fulfill individual orders as well. So if, for example, you suddenly get out of stock in your FBA and you can't ship from Singapore, your inventory from Singapore to the US quick enough, then great. If you have some inventory already sitting in a warehouse in the US, and you can switch to selling FBM, fulfilling your own orders through your inventory in that warehouse. So you actually you don't need to do either or, FBA or FBM. You can actually do both at the same time. And I do that because then I don't have to worry about either one going out of stock. Whichever is out of stock, the other one will kick in. And as a buyer, you should be able to see both offers on the listings page. So my suggestion is to do FBA first, then FBM when you get that kind of volume.
How about the other ambassadors? Do you guys have a combination of FBA and FBM? Is that common for you guys to have a warehouse in the US itself?
Yeah, so for me, definitely go for FBA, because besides what Debbie has mentioned, when you want to start FBM, you do have a lot more work than actually I realize is, you have to start to source around for all the different third-party warehouses, which is a lot of work, and they may not work well with you. So there's a lot of complications when it comes to dealing with third-party warehouses. And of course, there is also no fixed cost structure. So costing can be very challenging as well, because different orders, when they fulfill, they'll give you a different price. So these are all the complications that comes with FBM. So I would say, especially for someone who is starting out, new sellers, just stick to FBA. And then, once you get more experience or get more volume, as Debbie says, then you can consider FBM.
I want to say something that is not about FBM, FBA, but it's a tip that I think that both mentioned didn't say before. I just want to say timing is also a factor. I would suggest to try to get a product in the market towards Q4, which is October, November, December, because this is the time that most of the traffic in Amazon is. So everybody start to look for their shopping in that time. And I think that now we are in the beginning of the year. So kind of like, for me in my business, this is the time that you kind of like strategize and you're like thinking of the product that you're going to do this year.
Yeah.
And you also don't want to miss it. You don't want kind of like to send it a little bit after, because in those times, everybody's shipping products there. So I think that the timing can play good for you, especially if you are launching. It can be like a good wave that you can just like ride on it to start, your sales. So yeah, if you can get your products before October, that will help you.
Yeah, actually that's a very, very good tip, Amir, because especially now that we're early in the year, maybe some things we need to consider is product sourcing. If you already have a product, what additional products you want to launch this year? What are your goals and milestones? And how can you prepare for the peak shopping periods, which is like Prime Day in the US. Normally that is around Q3, quarter 3 of the year. And then also for quarter 4, which Amir mentioned, that's where we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, and all the peak shopping period. So you need to really plan your timelines to make sure you don't miss this critical times, because if you last minute want to ship out products, that's going to be very competitive, because there'll be many other sellers also looking for a shipping provider, trying to get their products to reach the fulfillment center on during those periods. So it's better to send early and prepare early for these periods. So you need to work backwards on your timelines. Yeah, thanks for bringing that topic up. So actually, maybe now that we've covered like FBA and like logistics, which is a big part of every e-commerce business, maybe we can move a bit closer to like Amazon advertising features. Is there any kind of like combination that works best for you? Maybe you run sponsored advertising and you also run a coupon, or you also do external marketing. Is there any winning combinations that you think can help new sellers when they're just starting with advertising on Amazon?
Yeah, I can go. So I think for advertising, I use mostly sponsored products and sponsored brands. So sponsored brands requires brand registry, which then requires trademarking of your brand. So for a start, I believe that sponsored products on its own is good enough. And then of course, as you grow and then you get access to sponsored brands, I think that would help boost your sales a bit, because that gives you access to videos, advertising. It gives you access to more placements around the product page as well. So that would help. And then in addition, of course, having trademark and brand registry, it gives you access to A+ content. So it gives you a bit more creative leeways to make your product listing nicer with better copywriting. Yeah, so I think a combination of these three, I think it works best for me, I would say.
Yeah, I think Felix covered many grounds. And for those of you who are new, A+ content is where you can get additional spaces on your product listings to beautify product listings. So for example, like adding a video, adding images to listings. So those are other additional spaces that you can unlock with brand registry. So it's something you need to enroll in after you have a trademark. Yeah. Okay, I think we're very close to time. Maybe we can take one or two more questions, answer one or two more questions. So one question from that was submitted by those who registered for the event for today's roundtable is Amazon suitable for non-brand owners and resellers? So if you're not a brand owner, maybe you're just a reseller, is Amazon suitable in your opinion? That's one question they had.
I can take that. It can work. I have tried that before, but there's some consideration. So I would say the source may be unstable because brand owners may cut you off anytime, like once they realize that they can actually do the selling on Amazon themselves. And that has happened to me. And of course, with brand that, if you're non-brand owners, that usually means that on that same product listing, you're gonna have multiple sellers to be on that listing. And the more sellers there is, you would have less sales because they are gonna compete for the sales. But I think it's still a good way to get your feet wet and probably maybe to earn a bit extra pocket money. But to me, I think long-term, it's personally not my preference.
Yeah, so maybe just for those starting out, if you just want to test the market, start with some products, then that's a good way to start. But in the long term, maybe having a brand and owning the listing will help you to guard against competition. Yeah. Okay, so we are down to the last minute. As we close off today's roundtable, is there any last tips or final advice for new sellers from you guys? Any last tips or advice that you have?
I think one.
Yeah. Debbie,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, okay, I'll go. I think after looking at the chat box and listening to some of the questions today, I think one of the things some of our attendees today need to know is that there's a lot of reading and there's a lot of research to be done if you are thinking of starting to sell on Amazon. And there are a lot of resources. There's this thing called the Amazon Seller University. If you go to YouTube, there's so many Amazon related videos, tips and tricks. There are a gazillion pieces of information out there that you can read and try to implement, and it will drive you mad trying to figure out what's the best way, because there literally is no best way. Everybody gets there in a slightly different way, and we all sell different products. We sell from different countries. We sell to different countries. So my advice is to just start and try and learn from your mistakes, and every day will be a new challenge, and every day you'll find out new things on how to move on with the business and how to grow it and how to develop it. And it will be fun, but it will be crazy, a lot of reading.
Thanks, Debbie, for sharing. Any other last words from the other ambassadors?
Yeah, to me, it's really just get started, get your hands dirty and practice. So of course, we all have limited budget when I was starting out. So really try to maximize the budget. So get as many launches out from that budget as much as possible. Don't blow everything on one product.
Okay. Yep. Amir, any last words, or Lala, if you're still in the call?
If you really want to sell on Amazon, the best time to start is now. So don't waste any time or opportunity. And and we also invite you to our Facebook group.
I would just add to, enjoy the process. I mean, it's going to be a ride. It's going to be a lot of learning. It's going to be some stress involved. It's going to be some success and happy. And just take it, try to enjoy it. I think, I think all of us, we kind of like we are, but no, when you do it and you enjoy what you do, it's always better.
Yeah, thanks ambassadors for your last tips and advice. So I guess the takeaway is really, just get started. You learn along the way. You can't expect to know everything at the start because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of steps that you will get along the way. And also stay connected with us through the community. We can always reach out, ask your questions. There are other sellers who can help you along the way. So that actually comes to the end of today's Seller Roundtable. If you have any feedback or if you have any ideas for topics that you would like us to cover next month, you can scan the QR code, let us know in the feedback form, and also join the Facebook group on the QR code in the screen. So with that, thank you once again, ambassadors, for joining us today, and see you again next month. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.